I'll start with you on this, Ned. A lot, and we said this yesterday on the show, how the White House makes this announcement will be very important because there are going to be two very extreme narratives. One is going to be very emotionally based.
That's right.
And the other is going to be around the logistics or the procedural aspect of this. Your take?
Well, my take on this, I think it was a very responsible move by Trump. Again, as John was mentioning, if this goes to the courts, this thing ends overnight. And what Trump was saying, let's give it a 6-month runway. And again, we don't want an imperial presidency. This is supposed to be decided by the legislative branch. That's how it's supposed to be done legally.
Do you trust them to do it?
You know what? First of all, it's their authority. It's their right. Do I trust them to do it? I'm not sure I trust them to chew gum and walk at the same time at this point. But at the same time, this is where it rests. It rests with the legislative branch to deal with immigration law. And so, you know, the thing that was funny was I was looking at Obama's quotes. I went back before the show and started looking at his quotes from 2010 and 2011. To take executive action on this issue, DACA would be unconstitutional. Such an indiscriminate approach would be unwise and unfair. Such an indiscriminate approach could lead to a surge in more illegal immigration. I know there are some who wish I could just bypass Congress and just change the law myself, but that's not how democracy works. And it's hard, but it's right.
I understand. And one second, Brian. That's very that's helpful because it gives us context. Also giving us context, though, President Obama talking about this is cruel, and many people saying, okay, that's what he would say. But President Trump, though, Ned, in 2012, talked about families that have been here should be able to stay here, and that's the compassion move. So I'm really just articulating kind of the dual sides of this from both of the political outlets.
And I think the thing I hope that we'll avoid is this is not a hard amnesty versus non-amnesty. This is not an easy issue to deal with at the same time. This should not have been made in the executive branch. This is the legislative branch, and Trump did the right thing. Instead of the courts ending it overnight, he gave them 6 months to figure this one out.
Well, a lot of people are wondering why the President Obama doesn't use Twitter more. Here's why. 2 pages. We haven't heard from him in a while. It's hard to condense.
You can always do like one out of 1,000.
Right. And the thing is, it's not about these people. They seem like wonderful people, and for the most part, I'm called. As you know, we're both on the radio. I got a call from one guy who was in 11th grade. When it was in 11th grade, when DACA passed, he has a 9th grade brother that was born here. Right. He wasn't. He was 2 when he came here. His brother can stay. He's got to go. I get it. But you compare it to the other workers and other people that are here already, and the kids in Kenya or Cuba that want to come here, too. That's the people you should be comparing them to.
Right, and we have had such a messed up immigration system, not only on this front, but on a variety of fronts, from not having a secure southern border to how they're coming in, to how we're dealing with those that are here illegally, now dealing with the dreamers. I look at what Trump is trying to do, and hopefully we'll be able to accomplish, we'll see if Congress can pull it off, is being able to hit a bit of a reset on our immigration policy moving forward, because it's been messed up across.
It's been messed up a long time, Amy. And again,
Certainly.
You're seeing President Obama, President Trump, everybody kind of on all sides of this.
Right.
Your take as to the best solution for Americans.
Well, I think we do need to find a pathway to citizenship for this specific group of people. But I have to say, I was really disheartened and dispirited by President Obama's statement today, injecting politics into this. By his own testimony, this was supposed to be temporary. Just think, you know, look at it's built into the title of it, deferred action. These were only 2-year increments to be able to get these waivers. So for today to say that these people are being targeted by the Trump administration, I thought was very unfair. And as we've been discussing, this is really the job of the legislature. And when President Obama, when he signed or did his executive order, at the time, I thought, you know what, this is not the message that we're supposed to be sending Americans or aspiring Americans, that it doesn't matter what the law is, it matters who's in power. This is a constitutional republic, and these decisions are supposed to be made by the people, not by a unilateral executive.
Kat, I'm going to get you in here because I hear that argument, Amy, and I can respect it. The issue, though, is that we do have executive orders in this country, and all presidents use them. Most of them use up to 200 plus. So why is it that people kind of get in their feelings around the use of exec orders when the policy doesn't go their way?
Right. It's bananas how some of the people who have problems with some of Trump's executive orders never did with any of Obama's, and vice versa. This should be an easy thing. Congress should have enough support for this specific issue. It's, you know, obviously a lot of emotional appeal. These people were babies, a lot of them don't have connections to their home country anymore. And then the numbers in terms of the benefit the economy, they're working, a lot of them are paying taxes. It should be easy, but again, like we talked about with John Roberts earlier, it's probably not going to be that simple.
Ebony,
people are going to okay, let's tack on funding for the wall, or let's tack on, and then they're going to squabble, and we could be looking at a disaster here. 6 months isn't that long.
In answer to your question about this specific executive order, the president is not supposed to be able to write law for a whole class of people. And even his lawyer for the Obama administration, Eric Columbus, he tweeted, I have it right here in front of me, he said, sad to say, I agree with the Trump administration that such a challenge to DACA is very likely to succeed.
Oh, I think every lawyer will agree with that.
The president has the right and the ability to set priorities in terms of prosecutorial conduct and priorities in terms of, who do we deport first. What President Obama did was actually confer privileges, and that's where he overstepped.
Oh, so much to talk about. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders had this message for Congress earlier.
Getting something on the Republican side is not going to be easy. That the divisions that we see between the center and the right in the Republican Party will become only deeper. What gives you confidence in this?
With all due respect, I don't think the American people elected Congress to do things that were easy. They elected them to make a government that works, to work properly, and to work for American people, and that's their job. And if they can't do it, then they need to get out of the way and let somebody else who can take on a heavy lift.
Brian, I believe she's exactly right there. They are not called to do what's easy. They're called to do what's right and what's fair and what's just. Your take, though, on their ability to do this.
Put it this way. You cannot, there's nobody, not Paul Ryan, not Mark Meadows, not Dick Durbin, gets to write the law exactly what he wants. So will you vote your man or woman out of office if they, in order to get the DREAM Act passed, they give funding for the wall? Why don't we work in theories of give and take? And you stand up in front of your town hall and say, yeah, I know you wanted me to get the DREAM Act. I know you wanted that wall built, so I had to go along with the DREAM Act. And if you don't like that, then understand
Brian,
nothing gets done.
are you talking about legislating?
That's what I'm talking about.
This is one of the things I talk about.
I haven't heard about that in a long time.
Politics is not the art of perfection; it's the art of the possible. So, what are you going to do to be able to move forward? Funding for the wall.
But that is for both sides. That's for both sides. That's for Congressman Steve King, who's on the right on these immigration issues, but it's also for the far left in the Democratic Party. And Congressman Sherman from California, he gave an interview to the LA Times saying he can't do anything that might be seen to be aligning with Trump.
And that's the problem, is that the extremes of the politics are so severe that the cost politically when you compromise is really deafening.